White House, continues to send out mixed messages about the rising cases of COVID and whether or not we are going to have to mask back up or whether we're going to stay locked down or what's going to happen. And so we're getting these mixed messages about the rising cases in different states across the country and whether new lockdowns are going to be coming soon. Pressed on this last week, whether the U.S. is headed for more lockdowns amid these rising cases, the White House Deputy Press Secretary at the time, Karine Jean-Pierre, told reporters, well, the way that we see this is that we have the tools in our tool belt to fight this. Right, we have the tools in our tool belt. We can handle this right now, and so we shouldn't have to go back into any sort of a lockdown, and we should be okay with this. The way we can handle this, and we're not going to head towards a lockdown. But then a few minutes later, in the next breath, said, well, in all probability, we will see more guidelines and restrictions. Okay, so what are the guidelines and restrictions? So if travel restrictions, no, you're not going to be able to cross state lines. What are the restrictions? Because it's starting to show once again rear its ugly head about like what government or the federal government steps in and says, maybe you shouldn't be traveling to these states or puts these on a watch list like Florida and Texas, et cetera. Remember the back and forth with New York and Florida between Cuomo and DeSantis last year during the initial rollout of this. So she had to come out and clarify and had to walk this back after she initially said, well, we will in all probability see more guidelines and restrictions amid rising COVID cases. Other reports have said there are other members of the administration that are seriously looking at additional lockdowns right now. And look, I got to say, we know that the lockdowns were an absolute disaster for the United States of America. Absolute disaster. So is that the answer? Or is this just sort of a trial balloon floating that we would then push for sort of mandatory vaccines, which that's unconstitutional? Like, how are you going to pull that off, right? Are you going to have certain states that say, yes, you have to do it? Or are you going to see people moving from state to state? Anyway, Jean-Pierre had to walk these comments back, and Fox News then pressed her on this. She said, White House says, well, won't rule out future lockdowns. Well, she had said, to be clear here, here's what POTUS said this week. More vaccinations and mask wearing in the areas most impacted by the Delta variant will enable us to avoid the kinds of lockdown, shutdown, school closures, and disruptions that we faced in 2020. We're not going back to that. We will not be going back into lockdown, she had to follow up. Okay, so she says, why? Because we now have the tools to put this virus behind us. The science says the vaccines work, including against the Delta variant. We urge Americans to get vaccinated. Yes, you can urge all you want, right? But the people that have gotten vaccinated right now are going, like the people that wanted to get vaccinated have gotten vaccinated. People that are on the fence that don't want to do it, they're not going to get vaccinated. And by the way, it's unconstitutional. You're not going to be able to force people to get vaccinated. Are you? I mean.
Well, and have you been seeing the data that's coming out of Israel on the vaccines and stuff, like the fact that they're possibly only lasting maybe 6 months?
Yeah, and this was what we were worried about all along, right? It's like, are we going to have to do this regularly? By the way, these vaccines aren't even approved yet, right? They're not even approved. So they are experimental vaccines, just like we had during the smallpox, right? They were unapproved. They were emergency vaccines. So there's a history of us doing emergency rollout of vaccines. So you're going to mandate people get this, and then you have states like Florida and others saying, no, we will pass a law that there is no mandate and that you cannot enforce mask mandates. But I mean, you have inside the White House right now the sort of mixed messaging going on, and she having to come out and walk this back. I mean, and what she's saying basically is, well, we will listen to, like I said, she says, I'm quoting now, she says, when she was pressed on this, well, we will listen to it. Like I said, we listen to the CDC and the experts and their guidance. And, the CDC is a body that is very well respected, she says. And we will follow their guidance for possible lockdowns. So, okay, wait a second. You're telling me that now this is the same CDC, by the way, that a few weeks ago says, if you're vaccinated, go out there, take your mask off. And we played the clip where Rachel Maddow pressed the head of the CDC on this question, right? Dr. Walensky, and said, wait a minute, you're saying we're good to go? And she says, Rachel, I'm telling you, we are good to go. And then a week and a half later, now we got mask mandates indoors again, even if you're vaccinated? So wait a minute, let me just be clear. You're going to trust the CDC to tell us what to do as far as potential lockdowns. We got some troubling data about children right now. And there's a surging number of the children getting COVID cases right now. It started out about a few weeks ago at 20,000. Then it surged to 40,000. Now it's up to 70,000 cases among children this morning. And they can't get a vaccine. They can't get a vaccine right under 12.
Right. And the data coming from Israel is also showing that the majority of people in the ICU right now are previously vaccinated people.
I wonder what vaccine they had in Israel.
I'm not sure on that one, but I have to look into it. But just I was watching where they were talking about the data and that even the deaths are coming from, majority right now are coming from previously vaccinated people.
So, you have this pushback right now between Ron DeSantis. You have the White House giving out mixed messages right now. But I can tell you right now, if they're saying, no, we were just testing this internally. We're having internal conversations. And the reporting, there's been some great reporting from sources inside the White House who have been actively having conversations about additional lockdowns. Okay. And now they're telling us, well, we're just going to listen to the CDC, where the CDC literally flip-flops in a matter of a few weeks. And by the way, will lockdowns work? I mean, you're seeing countries going back into lockdown phases now. China, Australia is going under lockdown. I spoke to some Australian friends who even if you're a citizen. So if you're a citizen, you want to fly to Australia right now, they will you have to stay there for 6 months if you fly there right now. And so they're under lockdown. Israel also going under new lockdowns again.
And so just so you know, Israel was Pfizer.
Oh, Pfizer shot? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got the J&J shot, and, we know that I guess up to the Delta variant, it's like 71% effective or something. But...
Well, and nobody, absolutely no one, you can find no one talking about natural immunity. I mean, kind of like chickenpox. If you had chickenpox, you're immune for the rest of your life. Like nobody knows how long the natural immunity is, so nobody's even talking about that potentially longer than the vaccine.
I've been working on this part of the story because I've been speaking to a doctor on this angle who has been looking at the antibodies in those who have already been infected with COVID. They contracted the virus. They survived and they are fine now, right? That's the kind of, I'm not talking about people that got sick and died, right? I'm talking about people that were 40, 50 years old, who were in good health. They got the virus. They were sick for a while. A friend of mine who got the virus almost a year ago still has not returned. Like his taste still hasn't returned fully, but he has the antibodies. And the doctor that reaching out to on this issue is saying that the antibodies in someone who's been infected with the virus are significantly higher than those that have received the vaccine. So, that's great news, I guess, so we know that the antibodies, I guess, just like getting chicken pox, et cetera, are way higher in those people who have actually been infected and survived. But, I'm not going to be the one to sign up for wanting to test that out. Like, hey, just let me, I'm going to go into a room full of 50 people like Obama's birthday party and hang out with all these maskless people on the chance that I will get COVID and I'll survive it. Because what if I don't?
I'd do it.
You would do it. You'd be like,
I
hey,
would do it. I'll volunteer.
I'm going to shove you into like a room of 300 people. There's a bunch of people in here who have COVID. You could get COVID and die. You would rather try to do that than get the vaccine.
Yes, as long as there was a good movie playing. Like I wouldn't go in there and just sit. There'd have to be some good entertainment. But yes, I would definitely do that.
So you've got a death wish?
No, I do not.
As long as there's like a Pixar movie on. You'd be fine with
I was going to
okay.
say like Monsters Inc. or something like that. I'd be totally into it.
And our Art saying, Clayton, go get your booster shot. Well, they haven't even approved these things yet. And is that what we're going to have to do now, is get these booster shots as part of this process?
Well, and if the immunity only lasts 6 months, that means you're going to have to get a booster every 6 months. Is that the case? When the natural immunity is like, I don't know. That seems crazy.
And, you're starting to see, finally, the like YouTube and others now starting to walk back that they like banning They had banned different channels. They had shut down different discussions about natural immunity, or not natural immunity, natural cures and natural remedies and so forth. There was public hearings about this. There were school board hearings. There was Senate hearings. These were public hearings with doctors and scientists talking about things like ivermectin and what they were able to find as a result of that. And YouTube shut them down. I mean, remove the videos, shut them down, right? Now they're walking that back. They're walking that back. And so I'm curious, like, if these channels that were talking about things that were shown to be highly effective in different testing and different results among hospital staff and medical staff, and they were having open hearings and open Senate hearings about this stuff, and then YouTube shut them down. And
that
Twitter,
happened to me.
I know it happened to you. And Twitter shuts down these stories. And what? And now they're having to pull it back. And now they're walking it back. Are they going to reinstate these channels? Like, oops, I'm sorry. And will they admit that?
Well, and my channel has 124,000 subscribers, and it has not recovered since they did that. Like, comments get deleted from my channel still. I have so many issues, and I can't get anybody at YouTube to help me from that suspension for that video where I played a Senate hearing video. So, like, I have like a 124,000 subscriber channel can't recover. Think about people that had smaller channels that have no, not even a contact or anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I bet I will not be able to get that strike removed either.
Yeah, but hey, they're walking it back. So, now we're allowing this because, because I guess CNN did stories, other big mainstream media actually started covering this. Joe Rogan started, how are you going to start trying to put all of those, trying to hide all of those sources and cover,
And it really upset me when YouTube started. So they started this initially. So if you listen to RT News, like on YouTube, they had to put underneath it that this is Russian news. This is their Wikipedia page, which we all know Wikipedia is a joke. And then they were citing the WHO and the CDC underneath YouTube videos, anybody talking about the pandemic. And the thing is, both of those organizations have been wrong throughout this whole entire thing. In many cases. So that's your source. Right.
Yeah, we've got some other stories on sources a little bit later in the show. So that's the very latest on this. It's an absolute mess, but the White House is still not giving a clear message as to what they're going to do here. We know that there's this back and forth between Jen Psaki and Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is saying that he, at a press conference yesterday, saying that these case numbers, it's being blown out of proportion. It's going to go down in the next month here. Nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. That the numbers that we are able to report get muddled together and so forth. What you're hearing is basically bogus. So that's Ron DeSantis, the White House saying that's not accurate. You're trying to tell people that you can't get a vaccine or you shouldn't be masking up in public, etc. So there's this back and forth there. It's all political. Trying to score political points. And yet we still now FDA considering fast tracking this booster as well, when we still don't have FDA approval for the main shots. So you're going to fast track this when we still don't know the long-term efficacy of this.
Well, even the thing is, if they want to get this approved, even the approval process has been cut in half if they get it approved, So the approval process is completely different than what it used to be. Like they completely cut it in half.
Years.
So that these people can get their patents.
Right. Oh, I mean, just like the Biogen, Alzheimer's drug that was approved in lightning speed. And you have all these hospitals saying, I'm not administering this to patients. Like, this thing doesn't work. Like, really? The FDA is fast tracking this Alzheimer's drug, giving people false hope. And so you have all these hospitals saying, I'm not administering this. I don't trust this guy. I don't know what the FDA was thinking. Awful. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.